Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is the two old farts coming at you. My name is Chuck, and where's the other old fart? He must be running late. Actually, he is running late. He went to the dentist, but he shall be here shortly. But we have our world premiere, very first guest on the show, friend, my uncle, Uncle Robert Bobby Charbonneau. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
It's very good to have you. So, my uncle, he is like an automotive genius. He's a guru. He can do just about anything with a car. He's been doing anything with a motor his whole life. He's been in multiple businesses from mechanic all the way up to executive. So take it away, Uncle Bobby, and fill us in.
Wow. I'd like to say I'm an automotive guy. Yeah. And it was almost like after I got out of the service, I didn't know what I was going to do, except I was going to get out of the service. And actually, they didn't even invite me to stay. Actually, that's not true because if I had one higher rating as an ordnanceman, I would have had to stay in. So I have been raised in a military family my entire life. People ask, were you in the service? I go, yeah, I was in for 20 years. And they're going, and I've been out for 55. And they're going, whoa, wait a minute. And I go, okay, not really. I was 17 years. I was in the service as a dependent. And then like you, Chuck, and then 3 years I was in the service as a serviceman, so in the Navy. So
Okay.
after I got out, I didn't know what I was going to do because there wasn't a lot of jobs for people that built bombs, rockets, and missiles and armed them and stuff.
Not generally.
So I went to Detroit because my uncles, well, actually, Chuck, you knew my dad a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
He was a very charismatic guy. So he said, well, if you're not going to go back, because he thought I should go back into the service, not stay out. He said, then I'll give you my brothers and I have a glass company in Michigan, and I will give you my share of it, and you can go, be partners with them in the glass company. So I go, hey, that sounds pretty good. Since I didn't know what I was going to do anyway. I don't know anything about glass, but I'm sure I could learn. So, take a rather, had to work a couple weeks to get enough money to go from Alabama because I was visiting them to, how it is that time you take off. I was in California when I got out and I thought, yeah, I'll go visit my parents in Alabama. I've got like $28. I should be able to make it on that. So I had to earn some money to go back up there to go to Michigan. I went to Michigan in an old 55 Chevy, two-door hardtop that blew the engine in Tennessee.
Oh
And
no.
I'm stuck. I have no money. I have just enough money for gas, but you just did stuff like that. So I think, okay, what am I going to do? I have a pregnant wife. I'm 20 years old, and I have no money, and I blew up my car in Kentucky. So I thought, well, I go, hey, just sit here. I'm gonna go find a car. She goes, how are you gonna find a car? I go, I'm gonna find a car. I had a 55 Chevy two-door hardtop, with the 283, which is a very popular car then.
Yeah.
And so I found an old car of somebody that would trade me a 1950 Oldsmobile.
You went
This
older, not
Oldsmobile,
newer.
yeah, this Oldsmobile was a drag car. I mean, it was for drag racing. That's all they used it for. Had a big Olds 394 in it and slicks on the back. Then no exhaust system, just headers.
Oh no.
And but it ran, so I got it. So, and they had towed mine back over to the gas station, and made the trade. And so I went around back, found some pieces of exhaust pipes, threw them in the trunk, and it had a floor shift with a hole that was like 14 by 14 in the floorboards.
Wow.
And we took off to go to Michigan. And it was kind of, it was a very interesting trip. And when I got there, uh, I, I went to my Uncle Bill's because they knew I was coming. And so we got there, it was pretty late at night. And so I'm staying up late talking to my uncle and stuff. I said, well, how's the glass company really doing? And he goes, that went bankrupt like 8 years ago. I'm going, what? I'm going, what? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He goes, I think I can get you in at Chrysler's because most of my dad's relatives had 50 first cousins up there.
Wow.
There's 11 kids in his family, and they all had kids. So, all of my fond memories were of Michigan were in the summer. When my dad would get transferred, we would go spend a month to 6 weeks in Mount Clemens, right by the Great Lakes. And
Right.
we'd stay out at my Uncle Kenny's in Marine City, right on one of the big canals that went to the lake, just having fun. That's all I remember in Michigan. Well, I got there in the biggest snowfall that they had had in like 20 years. And I've never lived in a cold climate before. I lived in the Mediterranean for probably 6.5 years, and we never got snow like that. So I'm going, oh, man, I don't know about this place. So my uncle got me into Chrysler's, and because it paid really well, it paid like more 3 times of what I was getting in the service. So I thought, well, and I got insurance immediately, which I didn't have insurance and had a child on the way. And so I'm going, well, I can do this. So I had like a graveyard shift, and it didn't take me long to discover I am not a factory worker. I mean, it's just, I just couldn't do it. I had a job that took the hoods off of a conveyor, would put them on another conveyor, and then you'd go back and get another one. But you had to do it I was doing it like really fast. And this guy goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm putting the hoods on the conveyor. He goes, learn to slow walk. You got to slow walk. I go, I'm 20 years old. I don't know how to slow walk. So I figured that job was so terrible that I'm not exaggerating. I would have to leave a half hour early every day because I was going to turn around at least 2 times, but I still wanted to get to work on time.
What year
So
was this?
this was in 1968 at
And what kind of cars were you building at Chrysler?
Chrysler's. I was in the stamping plant, and we had assembly plant right across. And it's kind of I wasn't living around army bases. I was pretty streetwise, and you know parts of the world, because of living all over. But I do know that the first job that I had there, it was considered to be really a gravy job. Me and another guy just welded the baffle plates in oil pans. So you had to make a production like 350 an hour, while you were there. But when your production got done, you were done. You couldn't leave, but you were done. You'd have to go sit in the cafeteria or do something. So I'm thinking, well, I should be working. I'm not, I'm getting paid. But that's the way it was. So I went over there. Second day I was over there, this guy came over and he goes, "Hey, we need a couple guys on the frame line on the assembly, which was across the street." And says, "We'll take the rookies." These guys all playing cards and stuff. So I go over and finish my day over there, and finish my night over there. And when I get paid, my uncle, I go, man, there's something wrong, Uncle Bill, with my paycheck. I said, the way that it is right now, you know, I worked 40 hours and I got paid for the 40 hours, but I got another 20 hours at time and a half. I go, how does that work? I was only here 40 hours. They're gonna- I, I mean, they messed up. Who do I go see? And he goes, well, you finished your production, so that counted. You got paid for the whole day, and then the rest is overtime. I'm going, that's pretty good.
That is
Well,
pretty good.
it was only like a day later somebody else discovered that had seniority that they wanted that job, that we finished production early all the time. So that was my experience in the factory, and decided wasn't going to work on the factory. We went to they went on strike. And that was right after my son was born, so that was taken care of by the insurance. And I go, I don't care what happens, I'm not going back. You know, so so I went to work for $1 an hour, running. I was running the gas station. There was a guy who was a manager of Marathon gas stations in Detroit area, and he had bought one that he was going to run after he retired. So he was looking for somebody to run it and kind of work on some cars. And I'd worked on cars since I was 9 years old. You know, as your dad knows, my dad liked to drink some beer and have his friends over and work on the cars. But I was the guy that worked on the cars, and he just told me what to do. So
He
I
drank
knew how
beer.
to. Yeah, he drank beer, him and his friends, and so that was my job. And so I went to work at that gas station, and I didn't care. I had to open it like at 6 in the morning. Now this is a brand new gas station in the middle of nowhere. It's on a road that connects two suburbs in Detroit, but at that time it was all farms, rutabaga farms and sod. They grew sod, and so my only customers really, occasionally somebody would need to get gas partway between, but
Hmm.
that didn't happen very often. So it was all farmers working. So I was working on tractors, and they'd buy their gas from me and stuff. And so I was there all the time from 6 in the morning, until 9 o'clock at night. And so my uncle would stop when he got off. We'd work on his truck. So I liked it. Plus when I worked on a car, I got half of the money, half of the profit of that. And the
Hmm.
Yeah.
farmers' wives liked me. So they would bring me food over all the time because they'd come in and be like dinner time. And they go, "Hey, do you never go home?" I go, yeah, 9 o'clock at night. And they go, oh, well, what do you do for dinner? I go, sometimes I bring stuff, but sometimes I forget to bring stuff. And so they would bring me over rutabaga pies or fried chicken, So that was pretty good, but it's still winter, and our snow plow was not a very good one. It had to clear the driveway every day because it was me in a big ass snow shovel, that. And snow in the Midwest isn't fluffy snow like in Colorado. I mean, you get a shovel full of snow and you can barely pick it up. If you have a truck and you fill it with snow, which people let it do that for traction, I mean the truck's sitting, the back end is sitting way down on it. So I did not like winter. I go, I don't think I could stay here. And my wife did not like it. She was from California, and she didn't like it at all because it wasn't California. And so I thought, well, March came around, and it was like the middle of March, and there was a sunny day, and I thought, you know what, maybe I can make it, because you get like this spring fever. If it's sun's out and it's 40 degrees in March, everybody's at the parks having picnics, even though there's still snow on the ground, because you haven't seen the snow. There, you have lake effect, so you don't see the sunshine from the November until usually the middle of March. None. It's daylight, but there's no sunshine. That's why they have so many suicides and stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I can do it. And so then it was just before my birthday in May, it snowed. And I go, no way in hell am I staying here. And so you didn't have phones back then. We didn't have a phone. We had rented a basement apartment. And if we needed to use the phone, what I'd call the lady upstairs, and she'd go get Sue, and we were allowed to use not make phone calls, but if something came up. So I called her. I go, do me a favor. I go, we're moving. My rent's paid till the end of the month. I said, so would you go down and tell Sue to pack whatever she can fit in the car? Because we're leaving when I get out of here tonight. We're on our way to California. So that's what I did. We packed it up and went to California.
Now you
So
talk about that snow. My first tour and first job in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, my first winter there. It was like 32, 35 degrees. The sun's out, but the snow ain't melting. I said, "That here, it's hot out here, warm out here. It's supposed to be melting." Yeah,
I know what you
well,
mean about no sunlight because both times that I was stationed in Germany during the winter, it was just gray and overcast, and you were just praying that maybe one day the sun would shine through.
yeah, because that makes a big difference.
It
But
really
yeah.
does.
so I decided that I've been back there a couple times to live for a year or so. When my dad was real sick, I quit my job and went to spend time with him. So I'm a talker. I got a lot of stories. That's a story in itself.
So
Remember
what'd you
when
do out in
remember when your
California?
dad was in the hospital in Michigan? Ron and I came up and we were visiting with him at the VA hospital,
Yeah, Dayton.
and your dad said, "Louis, you need to take me to the bathroom." I said, "Okay." So I wheeled him into the bathroom just so he could smoke.
Yeah. Yeah, those nurses loved him in the hospital. One of them took him home with her for Christmas.
Yeah,
But
he was a character.
he was. I
Oh,
was glad. I was the only child that was. I was going through a divorce at that time, my second one, and, and I figured, it's not fair. He doesn't have any of his kids there with him. When he has cancer.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you know, my dad was a hypochondriac.
did not
That's
know
why
that.
he was out of the service, but had to go back in because he couldn't keep a job. He didn't want to go to work because he always liked drinking beer,
yeah,
and he just couldn't hold a job. So he
yeah,
went back in the service because as we all know, if you're not late, you're AWOL, absent without leave.
Yep, you're
So
right.
he would have to go to work. So, but it was so funny is his whole life he would get sick and it was like the biggest deal, like, but it was really so that he could have what is it, the hot toddies, the whiskey and lemon water and stuff.
yeah. Yeah,
But then when he got cancer, he handled that I mean, like such a trooper.
yeah,
He had what, 6, 7, 8 surgeries and he kept a great attitude through all of that. He'd be out of the hospital, back in the hospital, So I was happy that I got to spend that time with him, And when I was working in Sears in Arizona, and I was running Sears Auto Center, and I thought, well, when I found out he had cancer, we went back and visited him, and that's when I decided I was going to go back there and spend time with them. So I cashed in. I was going through a divorce, so I cashed in all my profit sharing, with Sears because they had pretty good profit sharing back then. And I had like over 10, I think it was about 10 years with them at that time. And so I figured I had enough money for about 3 years. I think it was about $68,000,
Wow.
and you're talking about this was in 1976. 1976, that was like $350,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of
So
money.
6 months later, I was broke because I have 50 first cousins, and most of them didn't work. So we'd go out all the time. I'd visit my dad during the day, and then I'd take my aunt and uncle because I was staying at a little house I had. I'd take them out to dinner, and then my cousins a group of them would go out, but none of them had money. So 6 months later, I had to go back to work. So I went to work at a Sears Auto Center there. I think I was 27 then, and I had already run like 8 8 service centers for Montgomery Wards. I mean, that was Sears then, when I was working for Sears. Because I started as a tire and battery installer, because I didn't have any certifications or anything. And then I became like a assistant tech. And then I got ASE certified, became a tech, and did that for, I guess, about a year and a half. Then I found my first mentor, a guy called Jim Fry. And I was working in the suspension. We had 5 alignment racks because Sears was big then, and there wasn't like all the other different places, tire places and stuff, and or that had credit cards. Sears, Montgomery Ward, they had the credit cards, so they got the business. And so I was working on the alignment rack, and it was right back by the street. We had 5 of the alignment racks, and then racks to repair suspension things because those old cars, people didn't lube them, and everything, instead of rubber bushings on them, they had screw type swivels that moved. And so we're back there looking, and this guy goes, "Hey, check that out." So he goes, "That's a brand new Pantera." It was parked across the street from us. There was a big steakhouse with a huge parking lot. So the guy had parked all the way up by us, from that steakhouse, and this yellow Pantera, brand new. First one, none of us had seen a Pantera yet, even though it was California. And
Right.
so the guy gets out of the car, and I go, "I want to be that guy." I want to be that guy. He gets out. I didn't know how much his suit costs, but I knew I couldn't afford one. And so he goes walking across the street over into our shop, and he goes, "Hey, guys," and he goes, "I'm going to go in the office. I'm going to be back. I'm going to be working with you guys. I'm Jim Fry with Jamco Auto Parts from Oklahoma City. So I'm the vice president of the company, and we're doing a test with you guys, and it's not going well. And if I can't make it go well, I'm not going to get that national contract. So I'll be back out." So he comes back out, hangs that $1,000 jacket up, rolls his sleeves up. And he's a good-looking guy, probably early 40s, very charismatic. So he's working with. We had a supervisor that checked the cars out, and if he found work and got the work from the customer, then we did it. And so he worked with him till about 11:30. I was a rookie, so everybody went to lunch. I had to stage the cars, while everybody is out to lunch for the alignments that were coming in and stuff. And so it was just me and him, and I were there. And he says, "Well, what do you do when everybody's out to lunch?" I go, "Usually I bring the cars in, get them ready for Jim to check out when they come back." He goes, "Well, I worked with Jim and we didn't sell anything this morning." He goes, "So I want go ahead, get those cars ready. I'm going to check them out. You're going to help me." I go, "Okay." So yeah, I put all the cars on the rack and stuff. He goes, "Okay, the first one." He goes, "I want you to pay attention." And he checked it out. And I already knew, because I was certified in suspension and stuff. And he goes, "So that's how you check it out. And then this one needs this and this. So go get the customer for me and bring them back." So I go, "Okay." So I go get the customer, bring them back. He sold them the job and told them, be ready later that afternoon. They could pick it up. And then he goes, "Okay, you do the next one." So we sold 4 jobs of the 5 racks while they were at lunch. So, so then when I got off work that day, the service manager came up and he goes, which he was the service manager, but we were friends. We raced motorcycles together, dirt bikes, hill climbs and scrambles. So he goes, "Bob," he goes, "stick around because you had to change clothes before you left." He goes, "Stick around. I need to talk to you after you change clothes." I go, "Okay." I'm thinking, what did I do now? Well, I thought it might be something about motorcycles and stuff too, because we would, because at work it was work, and even though we were friends, he was my boss. So he would chew my ass out whenever I did anything wrong, even though we were friends. So he comes back. He goes, "Don't leave." He goes, "Go in the office." So I go in the office, and that guy's in the office. The number two guy for the big Sears store in San Jose, he's in the office and stuff. And they go, "Starting tomorrow, you get a new job." And I go, "Okay, we're doing what?" He goes, "You're going to be checking the cars out and talking to the customers." And I go, "I don't think Jim Macero, I don't think he's going to be too happy. He was like 30 years with Sears." I go, and they go, "No, you're not going to be the boss. You're just going to talk to the customers and sell the jobs. And when you don't, if you don't have anybody to talk to, then you're going to be working on them." I go, "Do I make more money?" And they said, "Yes, you'll make more money." And they said, "We'll figure it out, but you're going to make more money." I go, "Okay, I'm good." So then I was getting ready to leave, and he goes, the Jim Fry goes, "Hey, stick around for just a minute." So I go, "Okay." So when he comes out, he goes, "How far do you live from here?" I go, "Just like a mile. I had bought my first house a mile from there." And so he goes, "Why don't you go home and change clothes?" So I figured he didn't like my jeans and t-shirt. And meet me at the steakhouse in an hour. I go, "Okay." So I went home and I'm having dinner with some big shot from, Jamco Auto Parts. So I had dinner with him and he goes, "Bob, I would hire you to train my guys and go into stores and train." He goes, "You're in the wrong job. You should be talking to people and helping people." And so he goes, "But I can't, because if I do that, if you poach somebody from them, you you cannot have, you're done. You cannot take their people." And because I'm thinking, I'd love to go to work with this guy. And he goes, "I'll tell you what though, you help me and I'm going to help you." He said, they're going to pay you more. I don't know what they're going to pay you, but if you do a good job, well, I'm coming into town now for the next 6 months. I'm going to be coming in every 3 weeks. I got to get this stuff moving." And he goes, "You do a good job on that." And he goes, "There'll be a bonus for you." I go, "Well, I know I'm not supposed to get that." He goes, "Are you going to tell him?" I go, "No." He goes, "Well, neither am I, because I wouldn't be able to get that contract." He goes, "But I think you can do it." So I go, "Okay." So that's what I did. And he'd come in like every 3 weeks, and we did really good. I gave him more than I made in a month every month.
Wow.
And then 3 months later, he goes, "I'm going to help you." So 3 months later, they opened a new store and brought me in as the assistant service manager in East in San Jose, another store, and it was because of his influence. And then I stayed there 3 months. Then I got promoted to be another store that was doing poorly to turn around. Then they put me in a new store in Novato, California, and then they sent me to the armpit Vallejo of all the Sears stores. That was the worst one that there was. And at this time, I am not a manager. You know, I knew how to talk to people, sell stuff, and to get the techs to do the job was easy because I'd been a tech. I'm not like, you know, got such a big head that, you know, I'm 23 years old then. All those guys are 40. So I knew I had to kind of beg them to get the stuff done or do whatever I needed to do. Okay, you get this one done, I'll buy you lunch tomorrow. Anyway, so I went to Vallejo, and all these guys there. Vallejo is like the drug capital of the Bay Area in 1974. I mean, it
Wow.
was like the drug capital. It was a horrible place to work. We had a big baseball bat behind the service counter, and because people would have work done on their car, and they would come in and threaten you and try and take the keys and take off. So we had to threaten them, with a baseball bat. You know, so anyway, I took that job because I figured, well, it pays more, so I'm going to take it. And it was just going to be I was going to be the service manager. Then the day that I started, there was no auto center manager there. And I go, "Where's the auto center manager?" And they go, he hurt his back, and he's having back surgery and is going to be out for a year." And so they said, "You're going to have to, you're going to be the auto center manager for that time till he gets back." And I'm thinking, I don't know how to order the parts. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. Because you had to, everything was parts orders, in logs, you log your inventory and look what you sold and, you know, do orders for your new stuff. And I'm going, oh man, this is going to be the end of my success. And so the guy they had, a hardlines manager. So it's just lucky. And I learned that mentors, you know, that can just save you. And he was a real charismatic guy. He had been an auto center manager, and now he's the number two guy in that Sears store. And so we hit it off, and he goes, "I'm going to show you what to do. Because I'm going to come over here for an hour every day and show you how you do that auto center manager part of the job." He goes, "But I need you to make sure that you do the magic you've done in those other stores, because they want to close this auto center because it's terrible." So so he did, and that guy was fun. We'd go to have lunch and stuff sometimes, and he had 1,000 stories. He had been uh, worked for Firestone, was an outside sales rep. So he had all these stories. He goes, he was a big guy. He's probably 6'2". He was a big guy. He goes, I'm kind of out of shape now. He goes, but I was a god. Oh, I was an Adonis. He goes, I would go and have luncheons at the golf club when women had their lunches there, and I would invite and do something for that, and then I'd get to speak to them all. And he goes, I got so many customers for our store. He goes, everybody came, all those women came to buy tires from us. And I go, I can believe it. So, so that was, my learning how to run an auto center. But also there was the guys that were, they didn't want to work. I mean, they felt like they're the redheaded stepchild, and so they said, well, the store does all kinds of stuff. We're never included on anything because I didn't know what to do, so I just watched them, watched what they were doing, and tried to figure out what the hell. Pretty soon I'm going to have to do something, and so you know, I would talk to them, and I had a meeting, and I said, okay, I'm not sure what we should do next. I said, but I know by watching the cars come through, we don't check them, we don't find other things for the customers, and that can be our success. And they go, what do we care? And I go, well, because you should care because that's your customer, and you're supposed to take care of their car for them, and you're not doing it. I said, so that's, and they go, well, what we're not, we get treated like crap. Oh, we're just not like, everybody in the store, hey, they do all kinds of stuff, contests and everything. And I go, well, would you want to have a contest? And they go, yeah, they were all fishermen because that's the backwaters of the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 nights a week, they'd all go down and drink beer or sodas and fish in the bay. I mean, all of them were fishermen. There was probably like 12 guys. And so I said, well, let me see what I can do. And they go, yeah, they're not going to do anything for us. I go, let me check. So I talked to Bob Marin, and he goes, yeah, if you guys get a increase, any kind of increase, I'll charter a boat and we'll go out, deep sea fishing. And so I went back and told the guys, they go, really? I go, yeah, half of them still, were like, no, they're not going to do that. And we have to have an increase. I said, we have to have a 10% increase because I just, raised it a little, them just to increase. I figured we had the opportunity for more. And there was a big guy called Junior, and he was probably mid 50s. One of the mechanics, and he was a big guy, and he was like the leader of the shop. He was from Louisiana or somewhere, and so he goes, "Well, I want to win that fishing trip." And so somebody else says, "Well, I'm not going to do anything." He goes, "You're going to do what Mr. Bob says to do every day, because if we don't get that fishing trip because of you, you're not going to like it." So after that, he wasn't a shop foreman, but he was like my shop foreman. I go, "Hey, can you get Larry to do this?" He says he's not going to be able to. He goes, "No problem." But you meet all these characters, and they were like this family of ragtag, technicians that for 5 months we won contests every month until we had the largest increase of anybody in the Bay Area. We're still the smaller store, but had the largest increases year over year every single month. And then by that time, the guy that was over all the stores for Northern California and the Southwest, you know, he's the one that sent me places. So he sent me to Arizona to open a new store because the two stores they had in Phoenix, were not doing very well. So that's kind of how my career, but that took the first 11 years. Then I had my first failure when I ran out of money in Michigan, had to go back to work. I went to a big Sears store and just got the shop cranking. And Detroit is not a really friendly area. It's not like, and this was in Roseville, which is on Gratiot, way down and just inside the bad area. And we had guards on each side of the auto center because
Wow.
we had like an express. Because people they'd steal cars. They'd come over and they'd write stuff down. Okay, you got that. You want that? Okay, when you get there, just give this to them because we're running out of batteries. When they have like a big run on batteries, there'd be 100 cars, and then these people finally get up there. They go, "Yeah, I paid the guy back there. He said you guys were running out, but this assured me that I was going to get my battery." And they go, "We don't have any guy back there." So you got, but that's the kind of place. And one of the guys there used to every morning measure me because I took over for the service manager who had cancer and could only work a couple days a week. So when they gave me that job, they'd call California to see because I told them what I did there, and they didn't believe me. So they called the guy in California, and he goes, and when he's the general manager of the store, and he goes, "No, he doesn't want to come back to California. His dad's sick. I just want to know the numbers that he talks about. We've never seen." And he goes, "Well, no, they can't talk to him." So I went to work. I did that for 2 months, and then the group manager came in and had me go to group office and talk to me. And he goes, "I want to make you the group 190 manager, which would be all the service departments of the 1,300 Bay Auto Centers." So I'm 27 years old. It was 1977. I go, "Dang, that's a it was a good job." I thought, wow. And he goes, "But you got to get them to do what you've done here." And I go, "Sure." Well, all the managers were like 45, 50 years old. They would tell me whatever I wanted to hear when I went to their stores and didn't do anything. So 6 months later, and it was right after my dad died, he called me, he goes, "Bob, it's not working." I mean, nothing changed. He goes, "Those guys just don't listen to you." He goes, "They're not doing any of the stuff that they did at Roseville when you were there." He goes, "So I think that job, we need somebody in that job, but I think we need somebody that's that's more closer to their age, that they respect what they tell them to do, and that's had some experience running, a couple different departments, multiple locations. I go, okay, that, that just crushed me. That was my first failure. Before that, it was a boom, 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 boom. Just, like making more money, getting better jobs. And so that crushed me. And so I said, well, that's okay because my dad passed away. So I want to go back to California anyway. And that was my third wife. That we weren't married at the time, but she wanted to go to California. She was from Michigan. So and he goes, well, whoa, before you do that, he goes, there's three of the general managers want you for their auto center manager. So you go get your best deal with them, pick one of them. And one of them was Roseville. And, and if you, within 30 days, if you can kick the crap out of those three, his big stores that didn't perform, he goes, I will transfer you back to California, pay all your moving, give you that $7,000 travel money, and incidentals for relocating. I go, I'm in. So I did, but as soon as that third month was over, he goes, "Oh, Bob, stay here. Look at you making good money and stuff." He goes, and I go, "Nah, I go back to California." So I went back to California, but then they sent me to Utah because it was nobody had work on Sundays, and it was a union store up there, and everybody was Mormons, and so I had to go turn that one around and convince people, that they needed to take care of customers on Sunday also. And so I did that for a year. But during that year, I had met some really good group managers, and knowing that mentors can really help you, you know, a couple of weeks of the month at lunchtime, I had a deal where I would spend an hour with them talking about what they did, how they got people, how they set goals for people, how they got them to do it, how they did it with multiple locations. So then after a year, I figured I owed them a year to make that auto center better than it was, and I did. But I go. They said you won't make it to like a group manager till you're like 40, or And I'm going another 10 years. You know, when you're like 29 years old, you don't want to hear that.
No.
You just don't even think about it for another 10 years. I go, no, that's no good. So I went to Montgomery Wards in the Bay Area and interviewed for the uh, assistant district manager for the stores from Bakersfield to Anchorage, Alaska, and over through Nevada. And I got the job. So I gave my notice, and I had to move myself and everything at that point. And I moved down there. I showed up, and the building was completely locked. The group headquarters had chains on the front doors, and there's no cars in the parking lot. And I'm going, what the heck? I mean, what happened? And so I figured, well, somebody's going to show up. I'm waiting here. So I waited about an hour, and then one of the guys that was the group manager that I'd interviewed with, showed up. So I got out of my car and went running up there. I go, hey, I was supposed to start today. Uh, he goes, Mobil Oil bought Montgomery Wards from Marcor. It was Marcor Container Company owned Montgomery Wards. He goes, so Mobil Oil bought it. They shut down all of the group offices to regroup. And he goes, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing. My job right now is to get all the equipment out of here, get it sold. He goes, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I go, what? I go, I don't have a job. It's not like I had a pile of money. I was counting on going to work and staying with my mom for a couple weeks and then when I got my paycheck, get a place to live. So he goes, well, he goes, if you go up South San Francisco, he goes, what was the guy's name? Uh, Bob something was the general manager there. He goes, that's a union store that does really badly, and they need help. I think he'll probably give you a job like right now. So I go, okay, is that a district manager job like I was supposed to be? So I went up there, talked to him, went to worked there for a year, and then they opened up the offices back, and I got that job back, the one that I was supposed to get. So did that year and a half, and then ended up in the corporate office, and a lot of jobs up there. It's funny how they'll take somebody with a ninth grade education, and 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 my first job up there was a technical training director. And it was only because I had ASC certifications. So the traffic was so bad in the Bay Area that I taught automotive classes to union apprentices 3 days a week because I had certifications. And, it was $29 an hour. That was a lot of money back then.
$29 an hour?
And I couldn't get home. So that was, that was my motorcycle money, to buy motorcycles. And so, I did that. And then when I got, because I was technical training director, they wanted a training director and kind of operations for service. So I got that job at the corporate office, because I'd been doing the district job for a year and a half. And I had learned to use that Commodore 64 to do all my stuff. So it looked like I knew what I was doing, or it helped me a lot. So I went back there, and then I did good as that. Had a major project to, for the entire country, 374 stores, to put standardized processes in. But it was a great learning experience with a company that we used, and I worked with them, to organize and do all that stuff. And I mean, it was just fascinating, because I'd never done anything like that. And I figured, well, you know what, that's going to help me later. And it did. But then they made me the marketing director next, and then the operations manager. And when they made me the operations manager, that gave me access to the programmers, because it was all mainframe, to the programmers, to get me reports that by that time I knew if you want to move the needle on something, you got to measure it,
Right.
and you got to find out what's the best and set goals accordingly, because everybody's not going to be the superstar. But if you're too far below that top 25%, if you're below 40%, then you're going to be getting coaching a lot. And so, haven't been able to get that stuff, but that was right when they came out with a program called Fortran, which you could take stuff out of mainframes and convert it to databases in PCs. And so I didn't have a PC, but I knew the guys that did. So then I got a PC. They said, "What do you need a PC for? What are you going to use it for?" I go, I'm running, 374 stores. I want a damn PC, a real, PC. And so I got one, floppy disk and all, and got those guys to start transferring data for me on a regular basis, and built some new reports on productivity of technicians across the country. They had a salary plus commission after they did a certain percent of their salary. So it was easy to do calculations to see what they produced. And then we do ranking reports, by the store, by district, by region. And when you're putting it up in front of everybody, the top guys just get better. The middle group gets better, and the bottom group is still bad. But you're identifying. You're not going to move them, so you know what to do. You got to do something. So things like that just helped out a lot. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of those kind of experiences, and and getting a PC to figure budgets for 374 stores, because my Commodore 64 spreadsheet was nothing compared to the Lotus one that I had, that they got me. So my work career has kind of been like that. So, I do have a couple companies that I started about 5 years before Montgomery Ward's went bankrupt. 1,500 of us owned Montgomery Ward. I had nothing to do with like negotiating or anything. But 1,500 of the top executives all got stock. And we did a junk bond purchase. And when we did that purchase, we were in debt. Our debt ratio was like 21-1, which meant we're probably going to make it for a week. I mean, that's horrible. But we already had it set up that the day after that closed, we sold the Montgomery Ward whole credit division, which was huge. And then we were 4-1 debt, which is, you can't ask for better. That was great. We were supposed to do an IPO within 2 years, but timing of everything, that's when the big retail started changing. You had specialty stores, Best Buy, Circuit City, all those places opened up, and you can't compete with them. If you're going to buy a computer, because then you had actually computers, you're going to go to Best Buy or you're going to go to Sears or Montgomery Ward's where they have two. And
Yeah.
you go to Circuit City, Best Buy, and they have everything that's on the market. And washing machines, appliances, all of that kind of stuff. So I decided when they finally combined my division with another one to hide how bad the other one was doing, so it's time to go. And that's when I moved. I had decided, Lewis, to move to Texas when we came down to visit. When we came down and visited that one summer, drove one of my Baja bugs down here. I decided I was going to move to either Portland or San Antonio. But then I got promoted to the corporate office, so I always wanted to be in the ivory tower. It's not really ivory.
Really, it's not.
Yeah, and those elevators when they go down, you're on the 15th floor, and you go in and go, where's my big office? There's cubicles. They're going, that's my office. I mean, I'm 5'6" and I can see over the top of my wall. But anyway, that's it. In a nutshell. I quit, opened up a consulting company, Red McCombs. I did some work for him. Michael worked there, so I did some work for him, and then the guy that was running it was supposed to, if I helped him, and he paid me as a contract, labor, that he would introduce me to Red, in 60 or 90 days. He didn't, so Red, decided that there was somebody else out there doing something and found out that it was me, brought me in and said, I want you working in all my stores. And I go, I don't want a job. I go, I'll help you in your stores, but I don't want a job. Yeah, but Red McComb was a very persuasive, and, he goes, how much am I paying you? And he goes, how about if I pay you double that every day? I go, you go out and pick you out a demo anyone you want. And I go, okay. So I did that for 6 or 7 years, and when they sold the majority except 3 stores to AutoNation, then I moved on into the consulting side again and opened up 8 Sterling auto body centers before they were sold to Sears 8 years later. And I didn't like doing just body shop. I wanted to be more involved, so I went back to just working independent and training service advisors. And later when COVID came up I teamed up with some guys and we started a program for advertising on the websites of dealers,
Mhm.
and with coupons with videos and everything on them. instead of just a couple little coupons. We had like learning videos, that you could find out about your brakes, and what to do, and pages. And so, different services that you could text to somebody, hey, they said I need this. What do you think? And there's a video explaining the service, so now we're in, I think, getting close to 400 stores now. And so that's been good. And then during COVID, when you couldn't go in the stores, I decided that's when I'd build a virtual service advisor training program. So I've got one that it trains. It's for managers, and it's got training for the steps of what they do, and role plays and stuff they have to pass, leaderboard so they get points if they, complete different things, and tracks their performance to show whether they've gotten better in these areas and if they've completed their training with escalation reports. Text them when there's things that are due. There's service directors have like 70 different things that have to be done that they're responsible for when they run parts service and body shop programs. So over the years, I learned that all these guys are typically reactionary. OSHA's coming in tomorrow. That's panic. Okay, let's get the shop cleaned up. Get it cleaned up. Test all the racks, tag. There's 2 or 3 bad racks back there. Tag them and everything like they're supposed to be. Go check the oil, the battery storage, blah blah blah. So you ruin a whole day. So I actually put a program in there that they can assign those things to people that makes sense, and automatically it'll gives them an alert by a text that says, "Hey, don't forget tomorrow. You got to get this. You got the compressors in the main shop. The oil's got to be changed." And then when they complete it, they just click it, and it lets the auto center manager. And if they don't, then it sends them an alert, that you have not completed that. So just tools like that, and a lot of training on coaching, hiring, interviewing, and onboarding, the things, instead of just hire somebody and okay, you're gonna work with that guy for a week. That's not what that guy doesn't even do what he's supposed to be doing. And they're taking a brand new person that came from a place that probably did it different, and they have no idea. So I give them documents that they can alter, that have like the traveling, what happens from the time the customer calls in, who touches it, what do they do. So at least when they go and they start, they know when something that doesn't happen, who's supposed to be doing it. Instead of well, I don't know, go talk to the manager. So that's not very exciting stuff, but it's been an exciting career for me. And now it's coming down to the end. 76 years old. Someone said, when are you going to just go sit on the couch? And I go, probably when I can't get off the couch.
That's what it sounds like. It seems like your knack for people and talking and observation combined with the hustle got you to where you are now. You're not satisfied where you're at. You're looking for the next thing, but yet you're not tied to anything. If
Yeah,
if it feels good, go for it. And I think a lot of
that's what I
people
say.
could benefit from that.
Well, it's kind of scary when you were making the kind of money I was, running 374 stores, and you're going to quit that and start from scratch in another state.
But
That's
it's not
kind of
like you
little,
hadn't done anything like that before, just not maybe
yeah,
at
to
that
me, it was the
scale.
same. It's like moving, hey, it works out.
Yeah.
Ronna hated moving. It was the worst thing in the world, when it moved, and Roberta did too, Bertie. I thought, man, I get a chance to do a better job this time, of being Mr. Cool, or not being Mr. Cool, or not trying to be so cool. Whatever it was a new a new opportunity. And I haven't just worked my whole life though. My philosophy has not been the worst thing that I could possibly think is that I pass away and everybody's going, poor Bob, he just worked his fingers to the bone, and never really got to have fun. I've had a great time.
Yeah,
Lot,
lot of mountain bikes and motorcycles and
cars,
Dune buggies,
Porsches.
snowmobiles.
yeah, you name it, and living, and so like I told Rhonda that, and she goes, well, we'll just be saying, I wondered why he lasted this long. I go, that's the way I would like it to be. And you just never know. Last 10 years, I've had some medical issues, but yeah, I'm still getting along, still doing everything I did before, just not as fast.
Yeah, that seems to be
Yeah,
the
you take
common
that
thing
from your
amongst age.
dad.
Yeah.
You know, the last time I saw your dad when we was up in Michigan when he was in the VA hospital, back then, I think your dad passed away in '77, right? And
76, he was 50 years old.
yeah, so I think he was making about $300-400 a month retired check. So we drive up there, and you know what he does? He pulls out all the money he's got and gives it to me and Runner so we can get back home.
So,
That's the kind of guy your father was.
he was very generous,
Yeah,
just, and all of his family loved him,
yeah,
because he was I loved him too, and I don't care what job I had, he would tell people I had one higher than that. I go, damn it, now I got to go get that job.
yeah.
But with your dad and I have a lot of history, and his brother that goes way back, before he even met your mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll have to delve
I'll
into
do that
those
another
stories.
time. Yeah. Your Aunt Carolyn's going to be upset when she said, we're already at 52 minutes here.
52,
Carolyn
yeah,
gives us a time limit, no
no,
more than 30 minutes.
we're at an hour and two. Where you been? You came late.
Yeah, well, you probably know more about me than your 13 listeners or whoever it is.
Hey, but you know what? Hey, maybe we'll get 15 or 16 out of this thing.
Hey, there you go. That know more about me than they probably care to.
But
But it's been fun. It's been fun.
before we go, you touched on a lot of different things, and I think that aside from the automotive piece, and that there's more that people could get from you that you could give online via YouTube on creating videos on how to be successful. Not that you would sell any of that stuff, and you can set up a paywall with Patreon or whatever and have other things behind that that people could subscribe and get. But from the ad revenue that you could generate, like teaching people how to, like life coaching, life lessons for people who are struggling and stumbling, like myself, who doesn't seem to do very well on job interviews.
Well,
You know, think,
that's I do a lot of that with people that I know, and I've done some motivation speaking before, but I'm not like Tony Robbins or somebody. I'm not going to make you rich. I'm going to try and teach you how to have a balanced life, or at least know what you should be doing and what you're not doing and ways to get there, because it's
yeah,
not all work. I mean, it's you, part of it is you need to help people. Like my job, I tell people that I go in, most consultants guys do not like, but I tell them, I go, look, first of all, I don't want your job. I mean, I've had your job. I've had all kinds of big jobs. I'm a servant helper. I'm here to help you. If I can't help you get better at what you do, then I'm not successful in what I'm doing. And they said, well, we're doing pretty good. I said, well, if you were doing that good, I wouldn't be here. So we got to look at it. I said, it's kind of like, uh, you know, I've met some very smart people. One guy told me, he goes, when you get some people, he goes, when they got that job because they had fire and spit and they wanted that job. And then as they do really good, and then they think, okay, they start kind of coasting, and you can't coast.
No,
You
not at
have to,
all.
if you have that job, you owe it to everybody that works for you to help them stay on top of stuff, keep the spirit, build a strong spirit, team spirit, let them see how to get better. And he said, because I used to have to go talk to guys that was the last interview, before they got fired. Anybody that was any of my auto center managers, I wanted to personally talk to them. And we didn't have FaceTime and stuff. So if it was over a certain size, I went there. Did other things when I was in that area, but and this guy told me, he goes, you know what? Try this sometime. He goes, okay, you're mad because you feel you're not appreciated. They want you here doing this, doing that, and you think you're doing a good enough job. And the words are good enough, but there is no good enough. If you're not growing, then it's not going to work. So here's what I want you to think about. You got options right now. You're at the end of the road. You can either get fired or you can quit. And they're going, I go, well, don't act surprised. I already know. I've looked at the stuff. You've been talked to 2 times already as to the seriousness of it. I said, so why don't you quit? And not really quit. You quit. And on your way home, be thinking what you're going to do. If you actually did quit today, what are you going to do? So, well, first of all, on the way home, you have a family. You're going to be figuring out, what do I tell my family? That I quit my job. And you've been doing your job long enough. You're up in the higher end of that job. I said, and so now can you find another job? Yes, you will be able to. You've got some good track record, maybe not, the last year or two, but you've got some records that show that you did a good job. So first, is that going to be an easy task explaining, that, you may not be able to, be in some outside activities at school and stuff for a while and, and I was going out to dinner like we do, you're probably not going to be able to do that for a while, because I don't have a job. and, and if you're like most people, you don't have a reserve set aside to carry you for 6 months the same way that your job does today. I said, now there's the other part of it. Are you going to be able to find another job? And I know you can. So first of all, you can get an interview because you have a lot of experience. And you can get that interview and you're going to talk to them and you go, okay, I want that job because I haven't had a job now for 10 days. And normally I would get a paycheck in 3 days. So I need that job. So you're going to tell them, you know what? I'll come in here. I will fix everything. I don't care. I'll work bill to bill, get here early, stay late. I'll train people. I'll, find the things that need to be fixed and fix them. Wouldn't it just be easier to come back tomorrow as a brand new person and do what that guy would do that's going to take your place? What's he going to find? The gaps that he could close. Wouldn't it be easier for you to do that? It's surprising. Sometimes people think about that and they go, you know what? You should fire yourself every year and then decide, did you deserve to get fired? Because you didn't really get fired, but think of the scenarios. What could I have done that I didn't do, just because I've become complacent, in my job. Yeah, I'm not doing a bad job, but that fire that the guy that's paying you that top dollar expects, not just when you get it started for a little while, but always. You got to be that person. So learning how to do that. I'm not a get rich quick guy because, that's, you know, can you do it? Yes, but you're going to be so off balance, in your life if you do that. You can be very effective in your job. Find ways to work around it. If you have long, I tell guys, if you have to stay at a long time in jobs, then a couple days a week, get a hobby, take a little break during the day, have somebody covering, then come back and be the one that closes, be the one that opens. I mean, rotate that. Don't get in there where now you got it floating good, so you don't come in till 9 and you leave at 5. Because in our business, that's not going to fly. You're open from 7 in the morning till 7 at night usually. So, and you need to be present enough and alter your schedule enough that you can find some balance and do some things with your kids, and yeah, go to that rehearsal and then come back and close the place up. Find some ways to keep that value that they see you're working hard. Because, people that watch when you work for people, we all have done it. We look to see what they're doing. Go, man, I'm doing that guy's job. I'm doing his job. He's back there sitting in that office, and I'm doing everything he's supposed to be doing, but he's collecting the check. So, but if the guy was doing things and helping you do things and helping you grow, you're not going to have that attitude, because that he's worthwhile,
Yeah.
And your associates that work for you, they should feel like you're a major contributor to their wealth and happiness at work. So just
I agree.
stuff like that is, just things that people can think about and do. There's so many people out there that are the life coaches. Some of them are good, some aren't so good. And some of them, say, okay, get up and 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, maintain a big tub of ice in your garage, and you go sit in that tub for 15 minutes, and then you get out of there and you read a book for 15 minutes, and reading and educating yourself is very important, you know. But there's no set thing that works for everybody. You have to study yourself and decide, okay, where are my strengths during the day? Am I a morning person? Do I go like gangbusters, but after lunch, I'm kind of in the sunset mode? Well, then make sure that you're doing all your most important things in the morning, and that you're doing those so that it helps your success. Because when you're a boss, you're a coach, and you make such a difference in what your people do and the spirit that they have. And when you ask for that extra, they give it to you. I can remember the difference, over the years thinking we used to have that San Jose store that I told you. We had
Hmm.
a meeting every Saturday morning, and the store manager would come down, the big store manager. He had a driver, that drove him to work, but he would come down for a meeting for like 3 or 4 minutes, and just ask you for a good day. Can you give me a really good day today? Joe says that you guys could do this. Can you? He seems to think you can. And you're going, hell yeah. And you attack that day instead of rolling into the day. It's like having meetings in the morning a little bit to kind of make sure that you got a kickstart. Because otherwise, how long does it take you to wake up? How many cups of coffee? How many this? How many that? that could be changing if you're saying, okay, you better do that before you start talking to a customer. You need to put your game face on. I don't care if you're not a morning person. This job, you have to be here, 3 days a week because you alternate. And when you're there, I don't want you asleep, for the first 6 customers, and then you go, oh, hey, I'm awake now. Who was that I took care of earlier? It's been very fun though, but it's, I like that you guys have your podcasts. I watched a couple of them, now that you had 3 old farts on there.
There you go. You got 3.5 today because this one don't feel too damn good.
I know, I can't believe it. Now, see, that's your dad. Your dad has always been like Mr. Dependable. He's taken me to the hospital when he probably should have been in the hospital. And always, what everybody says about your dad, he literally would give you the shirt off his back.
He would.
Yeah, I mean, that's Lewis. That's what they think about you. And if you can have people think about you like that, man, that's fantastic. And you've been able to maintain that your whole life. That's pretty darn good. Chuck, you've been very successful too. Sometimes you can get a little lost. Like now you're trying to figure out what you're going to do next, or or what your plan is for the next Chuck. Is he going to be Charles or still Chuck?
we thank you.
That's another story for another time.
Well, you guys have been married how long now?
Me or him?
You've been married how long?
Me? 29 years for my second
You've
marriage.
been married how long? Louis? And I've been married a total of over 50 years. But Rita and I have been married for 33. I finally found somebody that was tolerant enough.
She's like Ronna. She kept me around like Ronna did. In spite of all.
Well, the secret was find somebody that hates change. And then if you can make it like a year or two, then they might want to change it, but they hate change, so they're not going to get rid of you.
Well, we got to do this again.
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually, it was very fun.
Yeah.
We can do some subjects on stuff, just talking about, motivate, not really motivation stuff. It's planning and, action plans of figuring out how do I figure out, what I'm going to do. And maybe it's just the first step is figuring out what you think you might be able to do and looking at those and thinking about what's it going to take.
Right.
Because you got to start somewhere.
Yep.
But I've really enjoyed this. I really appreciate it. Sorry for just talking the whole time, but
that's okay.
That's exactly
I'm
what I
sorry I tuned in late, but that dentist took longer than I thought. But I'm gonna tell you what, I got to give a shout out to the Data Point Clinic, the dentist I have, and the nurse. She's from Phoenix City, Alabama, Bobby.
Really?
Yeah. So
I thought that was a veterinary place.
So we talk about stuff like collard greens and all that kind of stuff. So we have good conversation. And then the doctor would come in and said, "Are you guys through talking?" Okay, doc.
Well, I'm surprised you can still talk. Didn't you say you had a...
I can talk, but I sure as hell can't drink this water.
I got mine right here.
There you go. Get a straw, Dad.
When I decided I was going to rinse my mouth out, and it just started running. So I put the top back on it.
Well, this seemed to work pretty good on my iPad because usually I do a lot of Zoom stuff, but my iPad, I have it set up in the back guest room.
Okay. Yeah, we will continue to do this.
Well, anytime I'd be happy to show up. Just give me a subject and...
Yeah, give you a call and give you a shout out. We have to get together. Maybe one day we can get together at Chuck's house and do like we did yesterday for our Father's Day and talk about some of that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, that was great.
That boy's got a studio in behind him there.
No, not really. I've just got this microphone that you can't see, and I got some of the lights that all the YouTubers and Instagrammers and TikTokers use just to kind of like light up the area, because without it, it gets kind of
Well,
dark.
this
But
is my video room. This is where I shoot videos. I have the green screens down right now because we had some Rita's nephew, or I guess my nephew now too, and
Well,
his
this
wife
this
and
is
their
to get
baby.
away from my room.
Well, this one isn't. I'm not allowed to do too much in this room, so it's not mine. It's not even. Well, I can't even say it's mine. I'm allowed to put in here what Rita says. Okay, you can put
There you
that
go.
in here
it's just
Yeah.
on
because
low.
I do have a desk and a 28-inch curved monitor. I'm a gadget guy. I got my computer. I have an office in the bedroom because we have a little cubicle office, and I've got two. I think they're 32-inch curved monitors
Uh-huh.
and a very powerful gaming computer that run those. But I don't have like very sophisticated microphones or anything, only because I wouldn't know which ones to get.
Well, I was trying that, but all that stuff didn't work for me, so I just go back to my laptop.
There you go.
Yeah, that kicked our butt early on.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Well, we flat burned up more than an hour and 22 minutes, or
Yeah, I'm
well,
gonna
maybe
probably have
not
to
that
chop.
much.
I'm gonna have to probably chop this up into two, maybe three episodes. Or
That's fine
part
with
one,
me.
part two, part three.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. That was great.
Love you, Bobby. Love you, son.
Love you all.
Love you. Love you
Y'all-
guys too.
All right,
Family's good.
take care, everybody.
All right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.